Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. What we talking about, it goes deep.
We're back. Channeling Cam Newton right there. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching SheSP in the Network, another episode of WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too. I'm Latasha Miles, aka Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess. And first and foremost, I have to apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather. It's not COVID related, thankfully. But if you see me clear my throat or cough a little bit or grab some water, I just got a little bit of some upper respiratory issues, but they'll definitely be gone next week. By next week or before next week, because I got to devour that food, you know what I'm saying, with Thanksgiving coming. So yeah, just want to give that disclaimer real quick. Nonetheless, I am accompanied by my lovely, talented, wise, and wonderful, amazing co-host. Let the good people know who you are.
What's up, what's up, what's up? It's the one and only Touchdown Tomboy. Oh man, it's a great day to be alive. I'm so excited about it. I just wanted to send condolences to, and I don't even know who these people are. I really don't know who he is, but of course, when I hear about people being killed or gunned down in their homes, then of course, I'm never happy about that. So I want to send condolences to young Dolph and his family and his wife and his kids. Now his children have to grow up without a father. And I think that's pretty sad and it's pretty horrific. And I just want to pay homage to them and I give them Godspeed. And that's my saga for today, and just keeping up with the world's events and things that are going on. And that's my spiel for today. But other than that, I'm really happy about being here.
Absolutely. It's something that unfortunately a lot of people are starting to take for granted now. And I was actually going to touch on that at the end. So great way to open and adding a little bit of some other stuff, especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving. So good stuff to hear from you, Touchdown Tomboy. No doubt. And another surprise-filled week in the NFL as Le'Veon Bell was released by the Ravens. Dan Campbell and the Lions get half a win there. The Raiders not making headlines currently at this moment. That's definitely a surprise this day and age with the Raiders. And the Washington football team with an expensive win over the Super Bowl champs as they got the win, but they lost Chase Young for the rest of the season. Oh, wow. By the way, not sure if you noticed, but Tom Brady, a very expeditious, shortest amount of time record setting at the podium this past week. Didn't really talk to the media reporters much at all this past Sunday. And like Shannon Sharp said, had they won, you'd have to call the Sandman from the Apollo to get him off the podium. So yeah, that was an interesting look there for Tom Brady as he hurried up and got off the podium. So yeah, let's kick it off here with the first quarter, the return of the Mac. Something we actually predicted on last week's episode of WTF Too. Before it even happened, Cam Newton returning to the Panthers, back in the number 1 uniform, back in his Superman form. Now, there weren't a lot of packages for Cam this past Sunday, but 2 huge touchdowns on the road against the last remaining, previously known as the only one-loss team in the Arizona Cardinals. Now, granted, there was no Watt, no Hopkins, no Murray, but we don't want to discount or take away from the inspired much more ignited Panthers team that we saw on Sunday. So Touchdown Tomboy, what difference did Cam provide?
I don't say that just because I'm a Panthers fan, but let me start by saying that, yes, the offense was not out there. But if I can remember correctly, most of the defense was still there. Buda Baker was there. Isaiah Simmons was there. And they still pummeled them. And this was a top 4 defense in the league. And they still pummeled them. And so even if the offense wasn't there, where was the defense? So, so the people try to, to basically play down this win as if it wasn't that big of a win. The last time I checked, this was still a top 10 defense. And this defense had no answers for the run game that Carolina produced. And I think it's actually pretty spectacular because it just goes to show you, really honestly, how much faith they had lost in Sam Darnold. The line was blocking better, the line was blocking better. And I'm like, wow, they didn't even get sacked on Sunday. So the line was blocking better, just that energy of we could possibly win. This gives us a chance, so not only did you bring energy, Then you brought offense. They hadn't scored a touchdown since Atlanta, and they struggled to score that one. So now you brought them offense at the goal line. And then, not to discredit, Cam Newton at all, but I think that actually lit something under PJ Walker, because he actually played pretty well on Sunday as well. And so I think, you had a whole team of just people where you see this energy like, you know what, we really can do this. And when you feeling away and you think you can do something, I'm telling you, you really can do it. And so I'm looking at that, and having Cam back is now going to open up the run game for CMC. Because now, defenses not only have to plan for CMC, it's always the threat of Cam still got legs. So now whereas when Darnold was under center, you didn't have that as much because Darnold wasn't going to throw like that. But now that you have Cam under center, it's like, wait a minute, who we checking for? Are we checking for Cam or are we checking for CMC? And so now that opens up the run game for him, Chuba, or whoever. And then you just that vote of confidence. So when I'm looking at all of these things, these are all of those things that can really, really propel them. And when I'm looking at Cam Newton, I'm not saying the Cam Newton that was in New England. I'm not saying the Cam Newton that was in Carolina. That was just this guy who was like high profile. He's gonna be up front. This is a Cam Newton that I'm seeing in every turn that is starting to put his head down and say, you know what? I ain't talking about nothing else. I'm just going to show y'all on Sunday. Because from what I was told yesterday, he actually he detoured the reporters and went through the back way so that he didn't even have to see the press. And he was supposed to do a press conference today, and I don't even know if he did it or not. So he got his head down, and we know that's not Cam. So I think that Cam is a different Cam. I think Cam wants to prove to people he still got it. And I'm telling y'all, people can keep sleeping on him, but the way I saw him throw that missile to DJ Moore, that arm is still there. So I don't know what you heard, but I think we're going to see something a little different than what we saw the couple times before. Because I think that humbled him, and now he's hungrier than ever. And I think we're going to see some different stuff out of Cam Newton and this Panthers defense and offense.
I'm glad that you brought up all of that part about the game, that you stuck more on the field, because I saw a different perspective from it. Because, like you said, we saw the physical presence was still there. We saw that he was still a threat in the red zone. And, that he still had the ability to put points on the board. The offensive line definitely seemed much more improved with him in the backfield. And that made them a little bit more versatile as well, having Cam. So those were definitely a lot of the on-field things that we saw. And yeah, we know that he still got it. And hopefully, there was just a few packages for him. But now that we got the confirmation, hopefully we'll see more of it. But the things that I saw in Cam's return that made the difference were off the field. The rejuvenation from the Panthers, something we have not seen from the Panthers organization in the 715-day hiatus that the last time we saw Cam in a Panthers uniform. We're almost at a full 2 years that we had saw Cam up until this past Sunday. So the energy level, the spark, the charisma, Cam had essentially at one point in time been the heart and the soul of the Panthers team on and off the field, based off of his personality, based off of his just his charisma, his spunk, and the way that he loved the kids, and the way that he harbored and did things in the community effortlessly, and a lot of times without even being asked. Just some of the things that he had set up just on his own, all of that got taken away from the Panthers. All of that was missing. So again, him actually pumping that back into this Panthers organization, that was a huge win off the field. It was an intangible win, something that you won't see in the stat sheet. That was big. We had a long drought without that energy as well. His energy, you just cannot teach. You can't buy it. It'd be nice to bottle it up and put it on the shelf and sell it, but you just can't. It's a very natural thing for him, and it's a part of his personality and his human nature. Cam was humble. It was nice to see a side of humility from Cam. Cam gets a lot of flank for being arrogant, and some of it I do understand. We're talking about a guy who's a number one pick. We're talking about a guy who was a Heisman winner, a guy who had a lot of success in college. So some of that's not his fault. Like, we can't be mad at some of his arrogance because it was proven. It was already established because he earned it. But it was nice to see some humility here. This man had said that the last week before the Panthers had called him, he was sitting there eating a bowl of cereal. Now, granted, that bowl might have been 14 karat gold, but nonetheless, this is this is not what you expect to have heard from Cam Newton, that he was sitting there eating a bowl of cereal before he got the call. I don't know, just putting that into perspective, I think that was a huge difference. We really don't hear that part from Cam. We know about Cam, the father. We know about Cam, the football player. But to kind of know that Cam does what we do, I would have liked to know what type of cereal. I could be like, ew, yuck, or that's my cereal too. That's my joint. But no, it's nice to see that side of Cam that we kind of don't think about, that comes from these celebrities and these high profile people. Also, earlier, with the transition of going to the Patriots and also getting dismissed from the Patriots, Cam had demands of, I have to be a starter. I want to be a starter. I'm going to be a starter or bust. And if not, I'm not playing. Well, he wasn't a starter Sunday, and he was very cooperative. He understood that. He knows his role, and he appreciated it. If you look at the sidelines, look at his body language and his nonverbal communication, he actually appreciated just being there and was willing and able to help however he could. And it's kind of like he gets it now. The passion, the drive, the content to just be there on the team and be back in that uniform. It was very refreshing. I also saw some maturity and leadership from Cam, because I've always had issues with Cam's leadership. As much as the big of a fan I am of Cam, sometimes I hate the tantrums that he was throwing. I understand frustration, but I don't like the guy, but when Tom Brady would lose, sometimes he'd rally around his offensive linemen. He'd look at film. He'd look at the tablet. He'd talk to them, pat them on the shoulder pads, go pray or whatever. A lot of times I saw Cam just kind of putting that Gatorade towel over his head, chewing gum, and didn't want to be bothered. I didn't see that from Cam this time. And granted, they had a big lead, and we'll see how it goes if they ever don't have a lead or ever lose. But I honestly think that part of Cam might be gone. He was very encouraging to PJ Walker. A lot of high fives, a lot of pep talks, a lot of pats on the backs. That's new. That's refreshing. I mean, he laughs and stuff, don't get me wrong, but I saw just a lot more humility and a lot more sincerity, and I'm proud of you from Cam, and I've ever seen before, all in just this one game. So I'm not saying that won't come again if they start losing, but it was very refreshing to see this more human side of Cam. All right, now moving along to the second quarter, sticking with my fellow Tars just a little bit longer, because I really don't feel like his triumphant return got the big deal that it deserved. I really don't. The fanfare that it should have. So with that being said, we already saw the return of Cam and a pair of quick and easy touchdowns that he got in the game. But there's some other intriguing matchups on the Panthers schedule going down the stretch. So we anticipate Cam being used a little bit more. So yeah, coming up, we have the return to Charlotte, where there's a reunion of sorts. Coach Ron Rivera and the Washington football team come to town. They head to Miami Thanksgiving weekend. Of course, Miami is a team that could have easily went and got Cam as well, as they're still struggling with quarterback issues. This is clearly a team where Cam could have taken his talents to South Beach like LeBron did. Didn't see it happen. You also have where on December 12th, he's playing his hometown Falcons. Now, that is in Charlotte, but still, that's his hometown. It's also a divisional matchup. You got a couple of divisional matchups against the reigning Super Bowl champions, against Brady and company. And this is a Tom Brady who is undefeated against Cam in the regular season. Out of all the starting quarterbacks, some of them have retired now. Cam is the only one who's never lost to Brady. Now, I'm not talking about quarterbacks on the schedule up and coming, or he hasn't played them yet. But Cam's the only one that's still undefeated. So he plays Tom Brady twice this season. We also see Cam with another reunion. He travels to Buffalo. Sean McDermott, former defensive coordinator who was on the team with him when they went to the Super Bowl, he has to play them again. And then also the last game on the slate, another divisional game against the Saints. So lots of intriguing matchups here with Cam's return on the schedule. T-Square, what game or games are you finding the most intriguing during Cam's return campaign?
So, I know that most people would say probably the Bucs game, but the Bucs, so this season, I see the Bucs as more human than they're not this superpower team, because they're just really have a lot of injuries. And I'm just not sure if they'll be able to overcome the injuries to do all the things that they want to do. And so I feel like because of that, then the Panthers as a team, have a really, really good shot at beating Tampa. So that's not the game that I actually question. The game that I question is the game actually where they play New Orleans. And the reason why I question that game actually really doesn't have much to do with Cam at all. It really has a lot more to do with, I'm looking at a mirror image defense, fast, high flying, good secondary, middle linebackers that play pretty well. And so when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at mirror images. So it's a question of what offense is going to be able to outplay their defense, because I know they're going to bring their A game. We're going to bring their A game and our A game. And you got to remember, we beat the brakes off of them in our home. So don't think that they're not going to remember that. And so when I look at that, I'm looking at, oh man, like that's the game that I think I want to watch the most. Because that defense is really good. And I want to see how we can compare up against the New Orleans defense. And so for me, I think that's the game that I'm most intrigued about.
Gotcha. That's funny that you said Tampa, because those are actually the two games I'm most interested in. And like you said, Tampa's definitely a lot more human this year. It's really ironic because I thought that Tampa was going to just take flight, because this is basically a carbon copy of the team that they had last year coming out the Super Bowl. And here they are, lots of vulnerability. They don't seem as hungry. I don't know if it's because Brady was like, well, I got my ring without Belichick. I showed y'all. Maybe AB is content, like, hey, I got my ring without being in the Steelers. JPP being like, hey, I got a ring with Brady and without him. I don't know. Maybe there's some content with this team, but they definitely don't seem as hungry as they have been. I'm just more so looking at this because I want Cam to keep his undefeated record against Brady. Of course, the Patriots. The Bucks are undefeated at home, but with the injuries piling up and the fact that Cam has won in Tampa before, and that was against Brady, but he's no stranger to winning in Tampa. And he's also no stranger that he's won in New England against Brady and won in New England while he was the quarterback there. So the guy has the home field advantage, and not home field advantage really doesn't play that big of a factor for Cam. But I'm looking at those as well, because if the playoffs start today, as you mentioned, the Saints, they're in from the division. The Panthers are in as well, and so are the Bucks. But because the Bucks have the lead, these two games that the Bucks have to play against the Panthers could honestly do some shifting in the division. It could do some shifting, maybe even in the playoffs and stuff like that. So I'm also looking at those games in particular for that, because at the end of the day, Tampa does still have the division lead, and it'd be nice to see maybe if Carolina with Cam now infused into the offense, it would be nice to see maybe if they could kind of put a dent in that, maybe knock them off the pedestal a little bit and do some reshaping there in the division and the playoffs. And of course, I mean, the reunions, they're cute, they're nice, warm and fuzzy stories. It's kind of like, what do they say to each other when they hug? But at the end of the day, that's really all it is reunited, and it feels so good, like Peaches and Herb said. So it's just really cute, fluffy stories. Not as much implications. Like Washington's not in the same division, same conference, but not the same division. But plus, it doesn't have as much playoff implications for Washington as it would for Carolina. And then Buffalo, totally different conference, and so again, the reunion aspect, the feel good stories, that's cute. But I'm kind of looking more at the meat and potatoes here and the shakeups of what could happen in the division and the conference as we get closer to the playoff stretch. All right, now touchdown time, boy. Halftime presentation, halftime entertainment. What you got for us today?
Oh man, I got one for you. Okay, so I'm always trying to figure out what's next. So what I did was, is in honor of Thanksgiving next week, I decided to, do a little searching to figure out, how did all this come to be? Like, how do we start playing NFL games on Thanksgiving? Did you know? Because I now know. So what happened was, let me give a little notes out. So what happened is that, as most people may know now, there are 3 games on Thanksgiving. 2 games always have 2 staple teams. One is the Lions and one is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the reason why that is because basically around the early 1940s or 50s, the owner of the Lions at that time, his name was George Richards. He actually started the whole Thanksgiving Day thing as a way to get people to come to the Detroit Lions games, because they couldn't get people to come to the games. So they started it as a theme to try to get people to come to the games, because it was like, we can't get people to come to the games. Nobody's doing anything on Thanksgiving Day. So if we host a game on Thanksgiving Day, there's no reason why people can't come. So they really started as like a gimmick, sort of to speak, to get people to show up to the game. So that's how it started. Now, other teams started to emulate that. But the reason why the Lions remain successful is because the owner actually owned a radio station that was an affiliate of NBC. And they made it a contractual agreement with NBC to basically televise the game of the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving Day. And that basically put all the other teams out because they were a nationally televised game at that point. So then you fast forward over to 1966, and the Dallas Cowboys come along. So now the story goes that the Dallas Cowboys were asked to play in a Thanksgiving game. Well, the Dallas Cowboys said, well, the only way we'll play is if y'all allow us to continue to play from this day forward on Thanksgiving Day. That's what the story is. So now we fast forward or whatever, and we here now, whatever, and they're still playing on Thanksgiving. So that's how that supposedly came to be, how the Dallas Cowboys started playing on Thanksgiving. Now, the rumor mill also has it that it was really more of, you know what, Thanksgiving don't really have nothing to do. You know, college teams, they play during Thanksgiving week. That was the real reason why they did it. But we'll never know if it was because, you know, they were asked and they just decided, hey, we're gonna play on Thanksgiving Day or not play on Thanksgiving Day. But I know that's how Dallas ended up playing on Thanksgiving. So that's been going since 1966, with the exception of 3 years, between 1975 and 1977. Well, 2 years. In those 2 years, the Cardinals at that time, they were St. Louis Cardinals at that time, had taken over that spot from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, what happened is that they said, well, we want to be the primetime show. So they allowed them to be the primetime show. The issue became, though, is that they didn't have as much popularity, one, as the Dallas Cowboys. And then two, on top of that, they lost all the games that they played during that 2 year period. So people were like, we don't want to see this if they're going to lose. Right. So because of that, in 1978, and, you know, of course, a decrease in the ratings, then they went back to allowing the Cowboys to play, and they've been playing ever since. Now, in 2006 was when the third game came along as the primetime game that happened on Thursday night, as basically to replace the Thursday night football game. So that was kind of how that came to be. And typically there is no, like, of course, you know, with the Detroit Lions, it's always the Detroit Lions, somebody else. And then with the Cowboys, it's always the Cowboys and somebody else. But with that third game, it can be anybody. It's no set team who it is, but they do try to keep it divisional. So they try to keep it as a team that plays in their own division. But outside of that, they don't specify who those teams are going to be. And so it was just basically brought along to replace Thursday night football, which would normally happen. And that's how that third game came to be. So now you know how the whole holiday Thanksgiving games came to be, because I wanted to know, and I hope that helped you guys. And maybe if they asked it on Jeopardy, you now know the answer.
Good stuff, Touchdown Time Boy, as always, as usual, on point. I love how you tie that in with the timing, very thematic. And it's funny how you said that nobody was going to the Lions game and they were trying to recruit people to come, because of course most people are off on Thanksgiving, but people are still not coming to the Lions game, and it's because they're losing. My goodness. So yeah, good stuff there. And I didn't know that about the Cardinals actually replacing them, but hey, if you ain't winning, you know, they'll snatch you up out of there real quick. So I guess that right there also gave some more fuel to the fire of Dallas fans saying that they're America's team right there. They can actually stick that one in their back pocket too. Good stuff, Touchdown Time Boys, usual. Appreciate it. So picking up here with the third quarter, Cam Newton's return on full display Sunday with the addition of his 2 touchdowns were pleasant surprises. But Cam's return wasn't the only surprise there in this past week, and some of the results of the games were too. From the Washington football team over the Super Bowl champs, even though it took Chase Young out for the season. In the process, I mean, your Panthers going to Arizona, beating the last previously known as the one-loss team. So, yeah, taking them out of that title as well. The Rams losing to the 49ers Monday night. The Chiefs reemerging with the win over the Raiders, and also being the only team to win in the AFC West that this past Sunday. So that put them back atop the division, interestingly enough. Even going back to last Thursday, the Ravens losing to Miami. My Steelers with that disappointing, embarrassing tie to the Lions, and even more embarrassing that Najee Harris didn't know that you could have a tie, which is, we got our own little Donovan McNabb there in our organization. The Packers with the shutout over the Seahawks and Russell Wilson's return. I mean, my goodness, on the road, Vikings over the Chargers, Eagles on the road over the Broncos, lots of endless surprises there pretty much in every game. So touchdown Tomboy, what was your biggest surprise in those results from week 10?
All right. So my biggest surprise would be, even though I know that they're in the same division and they're in the same conference, I think the biggest surprise for me had to be the 49ers versus the Rams. Number one, the 49ers hadn't won a game in over a year at home. Like, that's one. Number two, they had just got beat out of their own. They just got beat to death the week prior by the Cardinals being led by Colt McCoy. And they had no sense of life at all in that game. And so you roll me over, and here we are 1 week later, and they are beating the brakes off of the Rams. I mean, the Rams didn't even have a chance from the beginning, from the first step. It's like they just caught them off guard, and they just pummel. And they ran that ball so far down the Rams' throat. And I think that was part of the issue. They ran the ball so much. Kyle Shanahan said before the game that he wanted to run the ball at least 40 times. He ran the ball over 40 times in that game. I think it was 43 to be exact. So they ran the ball, they controlled the time of possession, and guess what? It's starting to look like that is the Rams' Achilles heel, because the week prior, Tennessee did the same thing. So now it's like, do you run the ball well and control the time of possession because they can't stop the run? That's what it's starting to look like. So now you've taken this time and you're saying we're Super Bowl or bust, and you can't stop the run. That's a real problem. Yeah. You went out and got Von Miller. They just basically sent George Kittle over to help double block him, and boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? And Deebo Samuel was gone. He was all over the place. Right. So, it's like, I'm like, what's going on, Rams? Hello, y'all got to fix this issue, because every team is not going to pass. And especially when it gets cold, nobody is going to pass. And as it gets colder and y'all not going to be in that dome, you better learn how to stop this run, because else people going to keep running all over you. So that's the game that I was most surprised about, because that's it. I would have thought that last week they would have fixed that, but obviously they didn't. And it's a problem again. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute now. Y'all can't go like this.
Very true. Before agreeing with you, I first must express my gratitude to the Miami Dolphins for beating Baltimore. Definitely was surprised by that, especially because they haven't done so, I think, since like 2015, it said. It wasn't my most surprising. It was the one I was most elated about, especially, again, being so close to Thanksgiving. That's my division rival. And then here we go with the blunder on Sunday with the tie. So that really didn't do as much as it could have, but maybe it'll come into play going down the stretch, because we have to play Baltimore twice. But again, so Miami, kudos to you all. I definitely want to send big thanks to y'all. I wish Washington, of course, I hate that they lost Chase Young, because I was really looking forward to seeing Chase Young against Cam this Sunday. I thought that would have been great. And I really wish that the Washington football team, I really wish they would have did this in the playoffs last year and had beat Tampa Bay, but nonetheless, they didn't. And yeah, so tough, grueling loss there with Chase Young. The Cardinals were missing some pieces, but still, even before then, you kind of knew Cam was going to ignite them. You kind of knew that was going to be a different Panthers team going out there, and it was. So I really wasn't surprised per se off of that. Now, the Eagles went through me off a little bit, as well as the Chargers losing at home, but at the same time, the Chargers have lost 3 out of 4 at home. So maybe not so much a surprise. They're more of a disappointment. The Raiders, they're just really, really distracted right now. And this is also, the history shows, this is usually the time of year the Raiders start to collapse anyway. So again, no surprises there. Russell Wilson, I really wanted him to get the upset in his return. He didn't. So not so much surprise to that, but that they got shut out. Like, no points. Did you even pinch the beat? Like, the late great AJ Johnson said on the Players Club. They ain't even pinch him. No safety, no field goal, absolutely nothing in Russell Wilson's return. So definitely a disappointment there. Wasn't surprised by my Steelers. Been making posts about it. We talked about it last week. Knew that they were going to struggle. Actually thought they were going to lose and would have been surprised. But the tie and Najee Harris's response pissed me off royally. I didn't want the tie. I almost wanted the loss. I would have took the loss better than a freaking tie. But nonetheless, here we are, 5-3-1. But yeah, agreeing with you, the one that I thought was the biggest surprise was the LA Rams, because, like you said, they should have learned their lesson with not being able to stop the run, and they didn't make the adjustments. By the way, Von Miller didn't even play last week when they lost that game, and Odell wasn't there either. So then you go and get these two superstars acquired and added to your team a week later, and you still didn't do anything. I mean, Odell looked discombobulated a few times, looked very lost. I kind of would love to have seen what his daddy had to say as a result. You know, he probably wanted to take Matt Stafford in the alley and have a little conversation with him. But it's really, really disappointing to see that the Rams are really folding into this paper champ status. You do all these mid-season and off-season acquisitions. You know, you go get Matt Stafford, which I was a big fan of, and I chose the Rams to kind of win the division. But it started to look like you can take Matt Stafford out of Detroit, but you can't take the Detroit out of Matt Stafford. Because when the defense was struggling, Matt Stafford also didn't step up. You know, he really didn't make things easier for the offense either. And then this was a very convincing win by the 49ers, double digits. Again, Deebo Samuel, who's had a lot of success against the Rams, but he just really, really took off. And Shanahan was really kind of brilliant in this, because the 49ers have had some offensive identity issues at the quarterback position. And like you said, we're going to run the ball 40 times. So he didn't have to worry about what his quarterback was or wasn't going to do. You took the guy who's had success against the Rams. That had been your pedigree. That had been your recipe. You stuck with it, and the Rams didn't do anything about it. So kudos to you. So the thing, though, also about the Rams, with this 2-game losing streak, you lost these 2 games, you're going to the bye week. Nobody wants to go into the bye week on a losing streak. And then especially when you come out of the bye week, this gauntlet that you have coming up, you got to play in Arizona, and Murray will probably be back. By the way, Arizona already beat you in LA. Don't know if you're going to return the favor or not. You got to go to Minnesota, who, other than, you know, they lost at home to a Dallas court. I mean, they lost to Dallas, but also Dallas was playing with a quarterback that they had no preparation for in their defense. And then they just came off of that big win over the Chargers. You got to go to Green Bay, and you got to go to Baltimore. So yeah, this is pretty rough territory here for the Rams. Coming out of that bye week, you got to hit it hard and quick, fast, and in a hurry. Otherwise, you're going to find yourselves going from the favorites to the forgettables in a quick minute. Now, lastly, the reigning AFC champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, have crept their way back into first place in the AFC West, thanks to a big win over divisional foe, the Raiders. And again, the Broncos lost in the division. The Chargers lost in the division. So the other 3 teams, 0-3, Kansas City with perfect attendance there with winning their game and taking care of business. Now the Raiders, 2-game losing streak, despite the acquisition of Deshaun Jackson, Teddy Bridgewater under center. But regardless of that, the Broncos lost too. And then here you have the Chargers with another home loss. They've lost 3 games at home. And, you know, all of this has happened to those 3 teams while the Chiefs have won 3 straight. So Touchdown Tomboy, what's going on in the crowded AFC West, and who will ultimately win this thing?
Okay, so here's the thing. So I had to pull up the schedules before I just made a pick. And so, of course, I've seen the struggles of Patrick Mahomes this season. And just that offense is just trying to figure out how to maneuver around teams figuring them out. And what's made that worse is that their defense is played better the last couple of games, but that defense really isn't up to par to really help to be able to really do much. So you have to rely on the offense to score a lot, which puts a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And so they've done okay, and they've won the past 3 games. But let's be honest, in the last 3 games, who did they play that really had an elite defense? Right. So it's like, I don't know. And so I think Sunday who they play Sunday?
Dallas.
Right.
Town.
So I think Sunday is going to tell this tale. Even though Dallas is missing some pieces, Dallas is probably a better defensive ball club than a lot of the teams that they played. So I will say, I think that'll be the telltale sign to see if Kansas City is really back. And so when I'm looking at Kansas City's schedule down the stretch, I'm looking at they're playing the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Steelers, and the Bengals. And these are all going to be tough games for them. Mm-hmm. So now the team that has, to me, the easiest schedule is going to be the Chargers. The Chargers plays the Giants. They're going to play the Giants. And then it's another team that's not so good. Washington, the Steelers, Broncos, Bengals, and Chiefs. So I see two very winnable games already for them, you know, out of that group, right? And so, and then, you know, then they have more divisional games. And then the Raiders and the Broncos, I think with them, I think the Raiders, they just have so many, like I want them to do well so bad, because I felt like that was one of those teams where they were just going to overcome and they're going to have this victory. Yeah. And they just got so much drama going on that they just can't get over the hump. Now, the Broncos, I actually think that last week sealed the deal for them, because I think that team is now over their quarterback. Because I get where Teddy Bridgewater is coming from, but let's be honest, if you're trying to win, you at least want him to reach out, try to extend his arm. You know, I'm not saying hit him with a shoulder pad. Do something, try to trip him up some. At least pretend like you're trying to hit him. I mean, he's just looking at him, run right back. So now you got these guys out here playing with all the heart, and you can't even rely on the leader of your football team offensively to help you to stop them from scoring. So now they're out here feeling the way. So I just think they just done lost all faith in that after this moment. So to me, that leaves the Chargers and the Chiefs. And so it's just, to me, it's going to come down to who wants it more and who's going to play the best. Now, I know that the Chargers have the talent, the Chiefs have the talent, but who's going to figure it out? So I can't tell you definitively who it's going to be, but I think it's going to be between one of those two teams.
Gotcha. What we have going on in the AFC West is a case of teams needing to grasp the concept of it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Because once upon a time, the Broncos and the Raiders both were 3-0. And then you had the Chargers, who had a 3-game winning streak in the mix as well. And all that work that they did, is basically gone in vain, because here we are. The Chiefs sit atop of the division right now. They control their whole destiny right now. Now, granted, the Chiefs' reign on the top could be short like leprechauns as well, as I paraphrase the late, great Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls is the illest. Now, going down the stretch, I did exactly what you did. I took a look at the schedule, and I'm basing this perspective solely off of the schedule, and it definitely won't be the Broncos. They have dates with the Chargers and the Chiefs in back-to-back games. The Bengals, the Raiders, the Chargers, oh my, like, seriously, those are the last games. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's just too much. It's too tough for them. And especially, again, like you said, there's some breakup in chemistry. There's a civil war going on between the quarterback and some of the players. They had a huge, huge win against Dallas a couple of weeks ago in Dallas, and all that's gone to smithereens in 1 week off of everything that happened in the Philly game. It's amazing. Just any given Sunday, in any given week, things just turn on and turn off. So yeah, I don't think it'll be the Broncos because of that heavyweight schedule that they have. It's the Raiders. This is the Raiders schedule right here. Sorry. They're playing against Washington. They're playing the Browns. They're playing the Colts and perhaps the Bengals. These are very, very winnable games for them. But I honestly think that the Raiders just are too distracted. There's too much going on. Henry Ruggs is back in the news again. And of course, they always associate him with ex-Raiders wide receiver. And so that's going to always be the tagline forever. He's back in the news again because, he don't want to take he don't want to take alcohol level tests, which is something that I guess with him being out on bail, he's supposed to still meet a certain level. He don't want to do that. He running around talking crazy. He's playing video games and he's talking crazy to people he's playing against. They're like, dude, you might want to lay low. You might want to be humble. But he's talking crazy to the people online, and he playing against some video games he ain't even gonna meet no way. So he's doing a little bit too much. And again, I just feel like there's gonna be more to resurface. You got the Gruden lawsuit going on. That's gonna be a distraction. Now, granted, the Raiders have handled it for the most part with some grace, but there's the pressure of now it's almost time for the playoffs. on top of you dealing with all the off the field drama. It's a disaster there. It's a mess. Now I want the Chargers to win the division because it's been a long time for them. I really like their young quarterback, but that the 3 home games that you lost, that particular streak, and you've only had 4 home games, so you lost 3 out of 4 home. That does not help your case as well, especially when you were a divisional favorite. Now, if you could do me a favor, don't win one more home game. If you could do me a favor and lose one more home game, which we'll touch on in a moment, but if you can go ahead and lose one more home game for me this Sunday, and I'll tell you why in a moment, then I would greatly appreciate that. As we head into Thanksgiving, I will be forever grateful. But nonetheless, I'm rooting for them because, the Chiefs have had their way in this division for 6 years straight. They've won the division. I want somebody new. I like somebody fresh. But honestly, maybe the Chargers might be experiencing a little bit of karma with the Anthony Lynn and Tyrod Taylor stuff. I'm big on karma, and I think they did both of them wrong. And so I don't know. Maybe this might be a late entry of karma here because when you look at the Chiefs, the Chiefs honestly have the best schedule out of all of them. To me, I think so because they play the Giants, they play the Broncos twice. They play the Texans. I'm sorry, I'm still on the.
No, that's the Chargers.
It's still the Chargers schedule. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Chiefs do have some tough games. But going back to the Chargers, they do have the most favorable schedule. That might be where I give them a little bit of the edge because plus they might be playing when they play Sunday against the Steelers. If Ben might not even be playing because he's got to pass that protocol and it hasn't been a full 10 days. And also if they get Ben, it won't be 100% Ben that we're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. And yes, on the Giants and the Broncos twice and the Texans. So a lot more favorable schedule for them. But the Chiefs, they're tough games. Dallas at home this week, the Chargers, and the Raiders, but to me, they're the most poised for this because, again, they've won the division 6 times in a row, and they've also got a lot of postseason experience as they've been to AFC championship games the past 3 years. They got Andy Reid as a coach. So I give them the slight edge solely because of experience, if nothing else. And now that they have the lead back in the division, that means everybody else has to catch them. So that means they control what it looks like for them. Everybody else is going to need some help. And I don't think Kansas City, I don't think they want to be that generous, even though it's near Thanksgiving. I don't think they want to be that generous and give it to them. So honestly, I think that even though I don't think I'll get my new blood winner wish, unfortunately, I think that the Chiefs will just continue to maintain the divisional crown. All right, so going on to overtime, the Week 11 picks there. Let's see, coming off the bye, we have Cincinnati, Chicago, Houston, and the Giants. So we'll talk about their games in a moment. And this week, the buys are the Denver Broncos and the LA Rams. But on the Sunday slate of games, we got Indy at Buffalo. Touchdown time, boy, who you
got? Indy needs to win this game, but I do think Buffalo will win it.
Yeah, the later it gets in the season, the harder it is to play in Buffalo. And I don't know, this is a dome team coming to town when they're battling elements. So yeah, I agree. I think Buffalo will win this game. Baltimore at Chicago.
Baltimore has to get over that hump from last week because that was not supposed to happen. And so I would assume that they'll come out, although they're saying that Lamar has been sick. It's not COVID related. So I don't know what his story is. So that's kind of up in the air for me because if they don't have Lamar or he's not a picture perfect bill of health, everything runs through him. So if he's not 100%, it's a good probability they could lose. So, I don't know. And it's not like the Chicago Bears are playing terrible. Right. So I can't really pick a team. I'm going to say if Lamar is well, the Ravens will win. If he's not well, probably not.
Gotcha. And I hope and wish that Chicago wins this game with or without Lamar. I hope that they can pull off a miracle. And as you alluded to with the Lamar Jackson, he's missed the second day of practice as a result too with this non-COVID illness. But Baltimore has also had 10 days to prepare for this game as well. Now, the one thing, Lamar Jackson's great with his legs, and then they also released Le'Veon Bell, who could have been a factor as well in the backfield in the running game. So they might lose 2 pieces as a result. But again, the way they got embarrassed against Miami, I think they're pissed. Pittsburgh didn't lose that game, so they're only a half a game behind, and they have to play Pittsburgh twice. And again, with the 10 days of preparation, I think Baltimore will win this game either way, unfortunately. Detroit at Cleveland.
The way that Detroit at Cleveland. So I'm going to be honest with you. Cleveland's playing so terrible.
I know.
Detroit right can really win this game because they playing just that bad. I'm gonna give the edge to the Browns, but I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit went in their house and beat them because they got a lot of drama going on. And I'm glad that Odell is no longer the scapegoat. And this just shows that it was more than Odell going on. They have a Baker Mayfield problem.
Exactly. I totally agree. And Detroit, if it was in Detroit, I'd definitely go with Detroit. I think it's time. I think they're due. Detroit has had some success in the AFC North, the tie with Pittsburgh. They should have beat Baltimore as well, but Justin Tucker just happened to have that long leg. If Justin Tucker would have missed that kick, it wouldn't have been going into overtime. They would have won by 1 point or two, because I think Baltimore won that game by 1 point or two. So they've had some success in the AFC North. Again, like you said, so much drama going on with Cleveland. They're so inconsistent. How do you dominate the first week without Odell, and then you turn around and get pummeled the week after? It's too inconsistent. In Detroit, they're just a team with a lot of heart, and they're playing with a lot of pride. I'm rooting for Detroit, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win, but also because it's in Cleveland, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost as well. Houston at Tennessee, coming off a bye week. Tyrod Taylor back in the mix.
Oh, that don't make no never mind to me. I think that Tennessee's defense is just too strong, and it just doesn't matter. I think their defense is too strong, and that they're doing enough to win major games, and I think Tennessee will win that game.
Definitely, I agree with you. Tyrod Taylor or not, it doesn't matter. The Tennessee Titans on a 7-game winning streak right now. Definitely don't expect them to stop with a less talented Houston team.
Okay, let's go ahead with my receipts. And remember that I said that I picked the Titans to come out of there. Remember at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think we both did. Yeah. So in that 7-game winning streak, that's huge. I think they have the longest. Yeah, they have the longest active winning streak right now. So that's huge of them. They didn't miss a beat without Henry, so good stuff for them. Green Bay at Minnesota.
This is going to be tough because Aaron Rodgers hasn't been at practice for 2 days now, so I don't know what his deal is, one. Number two, Kirk Cousins is kind of sliding under the radar, but he's playing very well. So that's going to be tough for them. And they're at Minnesota, you say, right?
Yes, at Minnesota.
I think the only saving grace is going to be that defense of Green Bay has really stepped up in the last couple of games. Like they've really, really stepped up. And so with that though, I don't know. This is going to be I don't know. I'm hoping that they lose. So I'm going to go with Green Bay because I need Minnesota to keep losing so we can make it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. I understand because I be playing that card a lot too with the what it does for my team. So I totally agree with you. Yeah, the Aaron Rodgers aspect is very interesting in this. Of course, it's like a to be determined. And as much as I love Aaron Rodgers, he kind of pissed me off with all that COVID stuff. So I kind of don't want him to win because he was just being like a really mean and facetious guy. So I kind of want them to win. Like you said, Kirk Cousins definitely flying under the radar. I had my ill wills towards Kirk Cousins because I always felt like he was overpaid. But we are talking about a Minnesota team who is definitely, I was about to say Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at home versus the road, but then they just had that big road win in against the Chargers too. So I don't know. And the thing is, they lost that home game to Dallas that I alluded to earlier. They were playing against a quarterback they had no film on. So I think that they probably could have been a home game for them, home win for them as well if they had been playing against that because they had been preparing for him. Minnesota one time was tied with Chicago in the lead as far as with sacks. So Minnesota, if they're not playing against Aaron Rodgers, who's very hard to sack and hard to bring down, then I'm definitely going Minnesota. But this Aaron Rodgers guy, he's special. He's tough. And if he's out there, then I'm going to go with Green Bay. Miami at the Jets.
So I think that this is going to be very tough. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to be tough. Number one, Robert Saleh, him and Rex Ryan got into it several times this week. With all the drama going on with it. And then number two, he's starting to catch heat because they're not looking so good. And this is the third quarterback. They pulled Joe Flacco off the bench. Now, Joe can still play, and Joe has experience playing. And so I think because of that, and Joe has experienced play, and I've seen Joe throw some dimes down the field and look pretty good doing it, that this could be trouble for Miami, you know. And even though Miami just came off that win, I'm not convinced. I think that the Jets' energy is going to be different this week because they're out to prove Robert Saleh is a good coach. And I think that they're going to do that, and I'm going to give the edge to the Jets.
Yeah, I'm going with the Jets as well because it is Flacco. Now I know Miami's had 10 days, of course, to prepare for this, but Joe Flacco got, you know, from Delaware. I remember seeing that cannon of an arm that he had back when he played in college. The guy has won a Super Bowl. He's even won a Super Bowl MVP. And now, don't get me wrong, that's because they couldn't give it to 7 guys on defense. So I get it. But again, still, we're talking about a very experienced Super Bowl winning quarterback in Joe Flacco. And he can't do any worse than any of the other 2 quarterbacks have done so far earlier this season. So yeah, and the Jets are at home. Again, I always look at elements. You got a Miami team who right now it's hot down there. They're coming to the Jets in mid-November. The elements, yeah, I'm going to give it to the Jets with that edge as well. New Orleans at Philly.
That's going to be an interesting one because they are pretty good. And Philadelphia isn't playing bad. However, that defense is very, very hard to work against. And they're struggling in the run game. So I think I'm going to have to give the edge to, I don't know though, because Jalen Hurts has been playing well the last couple of games, but it's still kind of hard to root against that New Orleans front. But for the sake of this game, if they go ahead and lose and we win, we could just slide on up. So I'm going to pick the Eagles.
Me too. I'm going to go with Eagles as well. Now, if Winston was out there playing, my perspective will be a little bit different. But again, I'm looking at this as, you know, the Eagles are very confident. They had a big road win against at Denver. And you got a dome team coming to Philly, November, outside. Mother Nature always plays a factor for me. Now, it didn't matter for Philly going to Denver last week playing at altitude. But I don't know, maybe Denver left everything they had against the Cowboys the week before. I don't know, maybe. But I do like Philly returning home and going against a Jameis Winston-less Saints team. I like them at home this Sunday. All right, your schedule here, your boys, Washington.
All right, so Washington is without Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So here we are defensively. Now, they say they have other pieces to fill those roles. I don't know. Ron Rivera is a good defensive coach, so they probably will. However, we have the number 2 defense in the league, and I think that and Washington has had problems with their offensive line. I think that our defense will be very smothering, and they will basically make good plays on defense that'll give our offense short fields. And you got to remember, this is Cam's first game back in the bank. So I'm assuming that it's going to be high energy, high throughput. I think that it's going to be, I think we'll see some mistakes, but I still think that Carolina will win this game simply just because of all of that surrounding it. Now, do I think it'll be a tough win? Yeah, because of course, Ron Rivera is going to play us a lot tougher, but I still think we'll win.
Me too. And I always look at because I'm thinking, Ron Rivera, he's so familiar with this team that you have your own internal scout here. And you got one coach very familiar with all these players. And then, you know, Carolina's familiar with the one coach. So Ron Rivera has more that he's working with because he's familiar with so many players. Carolina just is familiar with the one coach. So I usually give coaches the advantage there. But we're talking about the anticipation of Cam's return, coming back home. And I think that brings its own intangible and electricity there that will provide a boost as well. Now, don't get me wrong, Ron Rivera coming home is a big deal too, but he's an op right now. He's opposition. He is an op. Cam's not. So I really think that they'll rally around Cam and his return. We're talking about almost 2 years since he's been at the Bank of America Stadium. Carolina, of course, in the playoffs right now, trying to maybe even take the divisional title down this stretch. So I really think Carolina will win.
And this game is, from what I was told, sold out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. trying to get some more tickets, but it's tough because of all the subplots and the reunions associated with it. So yeah, this should be major. So yeah, San Fran coming off a big win on Monday night. They go to Jacksonville this Sunday. Who you got?
I don't know. I feel like San Fran is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of team too.
Right.
Actually, let's see here. I don't know. I could see this going either way, honestly. And I could see it going either way for a number of reasons. But I'm going to go with San Francisco simply because I think Kyle Shanahan will pretty much do what he did against the Rams, because that running game is going to be very hard to stop.
Right.
San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco is coming off of a short week, and it's in Jacksonville. And I usually don't like it when West Coast teams have to come east because it's 10 o'clock for them mentally when they're playing this 1 o'clock game. But it's just, I don't know. I trust Shanahan's quarterback and his staff and his personnel more than I trust Urban Meyer and Sunshine. And don't get me wrong, he's had some flashes of promise and a great future, and they've gotten some key wins, especially the big one against Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. But I don't know. I just don't see it this week. I think San Fran will pull this one out as well. All right, Cincinnati at the Raiders.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one either way. I don't know. That defense did not show up. The Raiders are trying to still have a show up berth, like a playoff berth. I don't know though, but I just think that they are struggling at corner because, Arnett is no longer there with the Raiders. Right. And I just think that Jamar Chase will have a game. I just do. And I think I'm gonna have to go with the Bengals.
Gotcha. I could afford for either one of them to lose because the Raiders already beat us. So if we have a wild card spot, that'll give us a little bit more of an edge. Cincinnati has already beat us. And so this is now comes into the division, but they're also in fourth place where we're in second. So I can afford for Cincinnati to lose a game, even though they beat us, plus we play them again. Where the Raiders, we're kind of tussling them with the wild card spot because they beat us. This game could go either way for me. I love Derek Carr though. I really do. I think he's a special guy. I love just his faith base and just how he's reacted to the Henry Ruggs situation. I'm really rooting for him as an individual, not so much his team, but this is personal reasons for me. I would go for the Raiders as a result. All right, big one here. Dallas at Kansas City.
Whoa. The thing is this. As much as I want to root for Kansas City, I don't trust that defense. And I definitely don't trust that defense against the run. And the way that Dallas, even though they're going to be outside and they're going to be in Kansas City, the way that Dallas has been running that ball, I just don't trust Kansas City enough to stop it. And that's the issue I have. And so I think by default, I kind of got to stick with Dallas on this one.
And I think you bring up great points, and especially, what's their corner name? His brother plays for Diggs.
Diggs.
He's having an outstanding year. And I'm like, Patrick, are you going to be bold enough to throw it to him? I know you make some huge plays, and you make some very stunning plays and throwing off your back foot and eluding the defenders. But I dare you to throw it to Diggs. I want to see you try it. I think it's going to be a great game. I want Dallas to lose, though. I just do. I love Dak. It's the fans. I want Dallas to lose. So I'm going to go with Kansas. Everything you said is absolutely correct. And on paper, it looks great. And Kansas City has those weak links there. And Dallas is a lot stronger on paper. But I want Kansas City to win. And I want these cocky Dallas fans to have to sit down. So I'm picking Kansas City for personal reasons, not for skill and talent whatsoever. Arizona at Seattle.
They're saying that Kyler Murray will be back. I just think that it's a little too late for Seattle. And I think Seattle has a whole host of issues on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. And I think that the thrashing that the defense got from Carolina for the Cardinals last week that it'll make them really tighten up this week. And I think they'll respond appropriately. And I think it'll be Arizona.
Gotcha. So we have Russell Wilson Sr. versus Russell Wilson Jr. in this game if Kyler Murray comes back.
His
and I agree with
you, as you like to call him.
Say, huh?
His doppelganger.
Yes, definitely his doppelganger. Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it is a little bit too late. And I understood what they were trying to do last week, because Seattle would have had a chance had they won and beat Green Bay. I think at this point, it's like the fact that you have Russell out there as an act of desperation and some pride here. And of course, Russell definitely gives you your best chance to win. But the way the division is set up and the way the playoffs are set up and the whole NFC is going, it's kind of a wash for y'all now. Maybe you should be playing for a draft pick. If Kyler Murray comes back, it's definitely going to be Arizona. Arizona has already shown you they can win on the road in the division as they beat LA. I want Seattle to win, but also that playing in Seattle doesn't have the same zing and fear that it once provided, like during the Legion of Boom days. It's just not the same. Nobody's scared to go to Seattle anymore. Nobody's scared of the rain or nobody's scared of Russell Wilson like that anymore. Plus, Russell Wilson is the type of guy, regardless of the injury, he usually starts strong and kind of gets complacent around the middle of the season. And again, this has nothing to do with the injury. This is just the Russell Wilson that's been his blueprint. That's been his history. So I like Arizona on the road as well, but I do hope and want Russell Wilson wins. He's such a good guy. It's hard to dislike him. So I want him to win, but just statistically, I don't think that they will. All right, the Sunday night primetime games, Pittsburgh at the LA Chargers.
I think that the Chargers are going to win this game simply because the Chargers are trying to win for a playoff spot, and I think they have to win this game in order to keep that momentum. So I think the Chargers have to. And then y'all, you got Big Ben just coming back from COVID. He's going to be rusty. So I'm expecting the Chargers to win.
Absolutely. Now, the one thing these past 2 weeks, because I know my team, I've always said we play down to our competition. It happened with Chicago, a game that we should have lost. It happened again in Detroit, another game that we should have lost. Again, like you said, Ben's coming back. He won't even be 100%. The Chargers have lost 3 home games. Again, I want, hope, and pray that they got one more win them, especially this Sunday. But I feel like they were so embarrassed last week. Like, they lost some heartbreakers. Like the Dallas one was a heartbreaker. The New England, when they lost at the end, that was a heartbreaker. But I don't know. It's something about losing to Minnesota that just, I don't know. I think I'd probably be a little bit more pissed off losing Minnesota than they had lost to Dallas or the Patriots. Mad because how they lost at the end. But like, dang, you lost to Minnesota at home. So I think they're a little bit pissed. We're embarrassed. But I think that the Chargers just have that factor of them losing the week before. And the way we're standing right now without all of our pieces, I think the Chargers will and should win. But also, it's hard for me to pick against my boys. I want us in the upset victory on this one. Monday night game, Giants at Tampa Bay.
Listen, here's the thing. Tampa is really on the ropes right now. And I saw the way the Giants played against the Chiefs. I saw the way the Giants have played against several teams. The Giants have been close in a lot of games.
Yeah, against y'all too.
And they, of course, Sam always gives our games away. But I'm just telling the truth. That's what happened. Sam gave that game. I think he had 3 interceptions that game. And so I'm looking at that and I'm looking at what Tyler Heineke did. And I'm looking at what they got. Saquon is supposed to be coming back. And although they're decent against the run, I think if he can muster 1 or 2 receivers, Daniel Jones can. I think that, and they're struggling at corner, I think that they could have a field day against Tampa. Because that defense can get after you. And I think they could possibly beat the Tampa. Because Tampa is already on the ropes and they're struggling. And I think that New Orleans may have shown a blueprint of how you get it done. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I agree. I was really trying to figure out how did the Giants manage to get a Monday night primetime game? Like, how does Daniel Jones? Are you serious? But then I got to thinking, it's kind of cute because now that Eli and Peyton are simulcasting on ESPN2. So I'm like, I wonder if Eli gonna throw some shade at Brady I know Peyton's personality, he would, because Eli got them 2 Super Bowl rings. So I'm actually looking forward to this game more so for that additional reason as well. Had Tampa not lost the week before, I would go with the Giants. But I think Tampa is pissed. We're talking about a very prideful Tom Brady, who might have lost 2 games back-to-back once or twice in his 20-year career. Had they not lost the week before, so that's the only, and it's back in Tampa. That doesn't matter as much, but it's because Tampa lost to a Washington team, and it was a thorough beating too. Like, the score is one thing, but they beat them on paper better than the scoreboard would show. And I think Tom Brady's a little bit embarrassed by that. I think he's a little bit pissed. So for that reason only is why I will go with Tampa on this, is because they lost to Washington the week before. All right, so there you have it. There's our picks. There's our synopsis of what happened in week 10. There's what we think is going to happen for week 11. As Touchdown Tomboy alluded to earlier in the opening about the condolences being sent out to the rapper Young Dolph and his family and 2 young kids that lost their hero senselessly. Like, he went to go get his mom some cookies, and you're thinking, okay, see you in a little bit, can't wait to get my cookies. And then he's dead. Just the sequence of it is all wrong. But in addition to that, as we're heading into the week of Thanksgiving, not only the Young Dolph stuff, we have 2 very publicized murder cases going on, one in Georgia, one in Wisconsin. And the verdicts could definitely cause an uprising in the racial tension that already exists in this country. You got that going on. Look at everything that's happened with Travis Scott and this Astro World. More people have died from that and all the lawsuits coming out. Again, the rapper Young Dolph, Zach Stacy, they used to play for the Jets. His domestic incidents of him beating, slinging, and hitting, I don't know if she's wife, girlfriend, fiance, I don't know her exact title, but nonetheless, there's a 5-month-old baby there as well when he's doing all this on these videos. And then you got another domestic squabble that we've witnessed with the rapper, the baby, and R&B singer Daddy Lee. All of this playing out on social media. Like, it's so crazy as we get closer to Thanksgiving. Just remind people to not take anything for granted, just to be grateful and thankful to see another day. Like, it's to the point where going home and coming back, where you just kind of thought that you deserved that, like, I'm going home, I'll be right back. You really have to put into perspective right now how much of a blessing that truly, truly is. So as we get closer to Thanksgiving and all the events that are happening that are, on these high profile, but even so much that aren't, just take a moment going into Thanksgiving and just reflect and just be grateful and be thankful for what you have and even some things that you don't have. So just kind of want to pass that nugget on to everybody as we head into Thanksgiving coming next week. Touchdown Tomboy, do you have anything that you want to add?
I don't. I hope everybody has a happy holiday, Thanksgiving holiday. Don't eat too much turkey, ham, potatoes, yams, whatever you eating. You name it. Don't eat all that stuff. Y'all have a happy holiday, and make sure you watch a game or 2 or 3 on Thursday. But yes, have a happy holiday and be safe out there, man, and never take anything for granted, and be thankful for every moment you get, because you don't know how many more you're gonna have. And that's all I have to say.
Absolutely. Beautiful way to end. So for Touchdown Tomboy, Gridiron Goddess, WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too, thanks again so much to everybody for tuning in and for the comments on the post. We appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back next week. We appreciate y'all, and we're out.